Picture this. It's the turn of the 20th century, and American cities, they're just exploding. They're incredible monuments to progress, but they're also total chaos. And right out of that mess, this really powerful idea pops up. What if beauty, what if art and architecture could actually save the city? It sounds kind of crazy, right? Well, that's exactly the Gilded Age dream we're going to dive into today, the City Beautiful movement.
So let's start with a number, 800. What do you think that is? Well, that was the estimated number of people, 800 people, crammed into a single square acre in New York's Lower East Side. Just try to imagine that. It's almost unthinkable. And it paints this incredibly vivid picture of the absolute crisis facing American cities at the time.
You see, the late 19th century, it was just this period of explosive growth. Everybody was flocking to the cities, right? They were looking for jobs and the new factories, and it completely transformed these places. Pittsburgh became a steel town, Chicago became the world's meat packer, but all of this happened so fast, with zero planning, and it came at a huge, huge human cost.
And look, these weren't isolated problems. This was happening everywhere. It didn't matter if you were in New York or Chicago or Philly. You were facing the exact same struggles. We're talking overcrowded tenement slums, factories just choking the sky with smoke, streets literally overflowing with garbage, and disease. Things like cholera and typhoid just spread like wildfire because there was no real sanitation to speak of. It was, quite simply, a crisis of living.
But here's the crazy part. Right in the middle of all that grime and chaos, you had these incredible symbols of progress just shooting up into the sky. I'm talking about the skyscraper. Thanks to amazing new tech, steel frames, the safety elevator, suddenly we could build higher than ever before. It was such an American solution, right? If you run out of room to build out, you build up. It was a real symbol of the nation's ambition and just sheer technological power.
Yeah, but that was up in the sky. Down on the streets, it was a completely different world. And a journalist, a photographer named Jacob Riis, he's the one who really pulled back the curtain. His book, How the Other Half Lives, was absolutely shocking. It used these new, stark photographs to force the comfortable middle and upper classes to see the brutal reality. And the message was clear. A city's sickness, its epidemics, they don't stay in the slums. They'll come for everyone.
So you've got this intense moment, right? This incredible contrast between progress and pain. And right then, something happens. Something truly transformative appears. It was like a dream, this vision of what a city could be, rising right there on the shores of Lake Michigan. We're talking about Chicago in 1893. Now you have to remember, Chicago had burned down in the Great Fire of 1871, so it was already this huge symbol of rebirth. And in 1893, it hosted an event that would basically provide a blueprint not just for rebuilding a city, but for completely reimagining what an American city could be.
This was the world's Columbian Exposition. And what they built was, well, it was breathtaking. A team of architects, guys like Daniel Burnham and Frederick Law Olmsted, they created this stunning, temporary city. All these grand, classically inspired buildings painted a brilliant, gleaming white. People started calling it the White City. And for the millions of visitors who were used to the dark, dirty, chaotic streets of their own cities, this was nothing short of a revelation.
And this is the absolute key takeaway. The White City wasn't just a pretty fairground. It was making a powerful argument. It was showing people, proving to them that a city could be orderly, clean, and beautiful. It was saying that harmony and order weren't impossible dreams. They could be achieved through thoughtful, deliberate, beautiful design. That one idea, it planted a seed that was about to grow into a whole national movement.
So you can imagine people left that fair absolutely inspired. Architects, city planners, social reformers, they all started talking and articulating this new philosophy for how to fix their cities. And that philosophy got a name, the City Beautiful movement.
Okay, so what was the big idea here? At its core, the City Beautiful philosophy was this huge bet on an idea that beautiful surroundings could actually make better people. The thinking went like this. If you build beautiful, monumental public spaces, grand boulevards, impressive civic buildings, gorgeous parks, that beauty would inspire the people living there. It would instill a sense of civic pride and virtue. It would make them better, more orderly citizens. So they weren't just designing buildings. They thought they were designing a moral city.
And this wasn't just some academic idea they talked about. No way. It found its most ambitious, its most lasting expression in the redesign of the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., which, by the way, was not the grand, impressive city we know today, not by a long shot.
The project was called the 1901 Macmillan Plan. And this was really the City Beautiful movement's masterpiece, its grandest statement. They put together a commission of all-star architects and planners, a lot of the same guys who had worked on the Chicago Fair. And their job was to basically take the original forgotten vision for DC and bring it to life on a massive scale.
And the plan's ambition, it was just staggering. It took the National Mall, which back then was kind of a messy, cluttered, disjointed park, and completely transformed it. It became this grand green civic spine for the entire city, lined with all the monuments and museums we see today. It truly was the ultimate expression of everything the City Beautiful movement stood for.
Okay, but let's pause for a second. This all sounds great, right? Breathtaking public spaces, beautiful cities. But it raises a really critical question. Was all this really solving the core problems? Could a beautiful building really cure poverty? Could a grand park stop the spread of disease?
And that right there is the central critique of the City Beautiful movement. I mean, think about it. Did a magnificent new library or a sweeping civic plaza really make a difference to the family crammed into a one-room tenement? Did it help the factory worker who's dealing with unsafe conditions and barely making enough money to survive? It's a tough question.
Because at the very same time all this was happening, there was another group of reformers taking a completely different path. I'm talking about people like the incredible Jane Addams, who founded Hull House in Chicago. She wasn't focused on grand architecture at all. Instead, she and her colleagues moved right into the poorest immigrant neighborhoods. They got their hands dirty, providing direct services, things like daycare, English classes, and basic health care.
So what you have are these two totally different approaches happening at once. On one side, you've got Daniel Burnham and the City Beautiful crew. They're working from the top down. Their idea is, let's fix the environment and the people will follow. But then you have Jane Addams and the Settlement House movement. They're working from the ground up, tackling the immediate, desperate social and economic needs of people right where they lived.
And believe it or not, there was another big idea competing for attention. A totally different vision for how to solve the urban crisis. And this one wasn't about beautifying the city center. It was about escaping it altogether.
This was called the Garden City model, and it came from an Englishman named Ebenezer Howard. And his idea was, well, it was truly radical for the time. He basically said, instead of trying to fix these broken, overcrowded, polluted cities, why don't we just build completely new, planned communities from scratch? The goal was to create places that had the best of both worlds, the economic opportunities of the city and the green space and fresh air of the country.
So you can see the contrast here is just night and day. The City Beautiful movement, it doubled down on the big city core. It wanted to use awe-inspiring architecture to create civic pride. The Garden City model, on the other hand, basically gave up on the old city. It proposed an escape to brand new, smaller towns, all designed for a better quality of life. One was about saving the city with art, the other was about starting over completely.
And you know, this brings us to a question that is absolutely still relevant today. The legacy of both these movements is all around us in the cities we live in. So as we keep building and shaping our world, we're still wrestling with that same fundamental tension. What are we prioritizing? Are we building grand, monumental statements that are meant to inspire awe? Or are we building truly livable, equitable communities for everyone? That old debate between the monumental and the human scale, yeah, it is far from over.